I feel like I'm Chapo. I feel like I'm Chapo. With all these shooters, I'm the king of me barrio.
Joaquin Guzman Loera, better known as El Chapo or Shorty, turned a startup operation into a multinational criminal empire.
The Mexican drug cartels control these distribution cells throughout the United States, and in Mexico, and in Brazil, Europe, Australia even.
Chapo Guzman is like the Osama bin Laden of drug trafficking.
In his early 20s, he was in charge of the airplane operations for Mexican drug kingpin Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo.
El Chapo Guzman was one of the figures. I mean, he certainly was what I would call a key player within the Sinaloa cartel. But I don't even think at that time he was yet the major figure. He would become that in the 90s.
After Félix Gallardo's capture in 1989, El Chapo slowly took control of the entire Sinaloa cartel.
Over the last 15 years or so, Guzman has become the head of the Sinaloa cartel.
Chicago, the Midwest, and border cities have all been heavily tapped by the Sinaloa cartel, El Chapo's criminal organization.
Arizona is one of the busiest areas for drug trafficking along the U.S.-Mexico border. Tucson Border Patrol sector accounts for 49% of the seizures along the southwest border when it comes to marijuana.
But his reach is even bigger.
The Sinaloa cartel doesn't only control the Arizona southwest border. They also have the wholesale contacts of Colombian cocaine, because they also control the passageways from Colombia into the United States via Guatemala, because the drugs come in through those states as well, by air, by boat, and by land transit.
With the help of two of the most powerful gangs, the Latin Kings and the Gangster Disciples, he controls 80% of the heroin, cocaine, marijuana, and methamphetamine that floods Chicago, netting him at least $3 billion a year.
He makes Al Capone, John Gotti look like Boy Scouts.
To many, El Chapo is a folk hero, a cultural icon followed by thousands. Songs praising his lifestyle are popular on both sides of the border.
All I wanna be is El Chapo. $3 billion in pesos.
This team of investigative reporters from Univision spent months digging into his life to unravel the true El Chapo.
He could be a colorful guy, but we shouldn't forget that he's a very violent guy.
To see all this chaos and all this destruction and death and come from this one guy, you go, oh my God.
Gerardo and the Univision investigative team went into the heart of Sinaloa in pursuit of El Chapo's trail.
They like him because he came from poverty. And the myth is that he helps the poor people of the Sierra, the mountain range where he grew up.
In Nogales, Arizona, Tiffany went underground, literally, to take a closer look at some of the 127 tunnels controlled by El Chapo. Through their investigation, the Univision reporters confirmed the location of 62 of them.
This Nogales, the Plaza of Nogales, is controlled by Chapo Guzman Sinaloa cartel.
And how common is it to see tunnels in this segment of the border?
This right here, it's amazing it hasn't caved in on itself. Since 1990, we found well over 100 tunnels just in this area, which is less than a half a mile.
And they're experts in the mining, aren't they?
Absolutely. Sonora is known for mining. So what we found through our intelligence department is that a lot of these people that are used to dig these tunnels are engineers that were laid off from the mines or may work for them still.
The tunnels are the main attraction.
They take drugs from Mexico to United States and they bring back money. Cars.
And guns.
And guns.
And guns.
He clones Border Patrol cars. He gets the Border Patrol, exactly the same thing, and he passes it across the border. Utility vehicles, everything that would look normal crossing the border. And he does that for the heroin and the cocaine and the meth, which is the smaller amounts. He uses the pedestrians.
From submarines to woodlogs, El Chapo has shown great creativity.
From an 18-wheeler to aircraft to U.S. mail, UPS, FedEx, to the trunk of a car, to the backpack of an 18-year-old riding a bus.
The key to El Chapo's success is access to the U.S. market, and he gained that through a brutal war with his rival cartel, the Zetas.
All these cartels, whether it's the Zetas or whether it's Sinaloa, they murder people right and left. That's how they enforce their rules.
He was captured in the 90s and managed to escape 8 years later.
El Chapo bribed his way out of what was supposed to be a high-security penitentiary in Mexico.
El Chapo was first sent to a strict penitentiary, where he couldn't even talk to other inmates. He complained and got moved to the Puente Grande prison in Jalisco. With bribes and intimidation, he turned the jail into a 5-star hotel, full of special privileges.
Le permitían la entrada de prostitutas, le permitían la entrada de Viagra, porque el Chapo Guzmán consumía Viagra, cocaína, y le permitían, no solo eso, le permitían también tener acceso sexual a reclusas que estaban ahí.
One of them, Zulema Hernandez, became his girlfriend. And in one of the many love letters El Chapo sent her, he told her that after 8 years behind bars, he would soon be free again.
Were there other prison officials or guards that were aware of this and allowed this to happen because they were paid bribes or intimidated in some way? It seems unlikely that he just got into a dirty clothesbin and got rolled out of the prison without a fair number of people having been paid off to help him escape.
While El Chapo's drug empire circles the globe, he has a special relationship with the United States. In 2009, the DEA found El Chapo Sinaloa cartel operating in 64 American cities. But his ties to the U.S. run even deeper.
We unearthed a driver's license with his picture. We saw it was like, that's his picture. It was
an American driver's license?
Yes, from California. It's his picture with another name and another address, but it's his picture.
And he used it for buying 2 cars.
He bought 2 Corvettes.
To bribe some comandantes in Mexico.
To bribe Mexican generals.
And until recently, it seems the Mexican government went after his competitors more forcefully. An analysis of arrests by NPR found that even though El Chapo's cartel is the largest, it only accounts for 12% of all federal cartel arrests in Mexico.
After 13 years on the run, Joaquin Guzman Loera, better known as El Chapo or Shorty, has been captured. Mexican Marines ended the manhunt by capturing him in a beach resort in Mazatlan. El Chapo apparently got careless. He left the mountains where he had been hiding and started visiting the cities of Culiacan and Mazatlan. Guzman, 56 years old, was found with an unidentified woman and no shots were fired. His arrest came on the heels of the takedown of several top Sinaloa operatives in the last few months and at least 10 mid-level cartel members in the last week. According to U.S. authorities, Mexican forces acted on information from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and U.S. Homeland Security Intelligence.
They started raiding the residences. At one of them, it's known that Chapo Guzman was there, but he had a tunnel leading into the drainage system. But with the interrogation of the various individuals that were captured at these residences, they were able to track his movements and then eventually track him to the hotel in Mazatlan where he was apprehended by the Mexican Marines.
This effort represents billions of dollars spent on finding him, all of which led to conspiracy theories about high-level cover-ups.
It's ridiculous. There is no agreement between Chapo Guzman and the DEA. Nothing the DEA would more like to see than this extradition to the United States.
But it wouldn't be the first time the DEA worked with drug cartels. In the 90s, they made agreements with Colombian cartels.
When they were fighting the cartels in Colombia, the government and the DEA made some questionable agreements with the cartels to destroy the Medellin cartel.
But of course, DEA will take information from one cartel and use it against another cartel. We did that in Colombia. Once the Colombian government said enough is enough, it took them 10 years to destroy the 2 most powerful drug cartels the world had ever seen.
All Mexico has to do
is look to the way Colombia took care of business. And yes, the U.S. had to help. Mexico cannot do it alone. The U.S. has to be involved.
Mexican President Peña Nieto thinks that this is the end for El Chapo.
La aprehensión de uno de los capos del narcotráfico más buscados a nivel internacional acredita la eficacia del Estado mexicano.
But his life tells a different story. Whenever it appears El Chapo has reached the end, often it is just a new beginning.